Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chapman Chapters. My name is Kevon, and today we're going to go over why I left North Carolina. It's a lot that I went through. It's a lot of, um, I can't even say the word on YouTube, so we're just going to call it beatings. Physical, mental, emotional, that I went through over the course of the years that I'm glad that I'm in a better place now than I was when I was there. This is new to me, explaining publicly about what happened. The previous one explaining what happened when me going through my journey uh, through my sexuality. That's a few people kind of knew that, but like this, I want to say only like literally maybe two or three people knew about this, about like everything that happened. But this is now me going publicly about everything that happened. And a lot of it, I want to see like, what is your opinion on it? Am I tripping about how I acted after and how I feel after, or is it valid? Is it not valid? I'll leave it up to you, but I'll tell you the story about what happened from then until a certain point until I left until now. So we'll get started with the story. Okay, so my memories go as far as back from when I was like 5 or 6, and it was me, my twin brother, my mom, and her husband, Mike. I'm actually going to say his first name because no bullshit, fuck him. Um, we lived in a trailer. I want to say for a good little minute. Don't know how long, but I just remember like that's where the memories of everything started. Before I continue the story, my dad was still a part of my life. He didn't just leave or anything like that. Um, I'm pretty sure there's some stuff that happened like behind the scenes with my mom and dad about why they weren't together, and then she ended up being with Mike. But like, he didn't just like up and leave. Like, he was a part of my childhood. If anything, he was the best parts of my childhood. I just wanted to put that out there. But I'm going to continue the story. So, like I said, me, my brother, her, and Mike. Um, Another thing, my sisters weren't in the picture because, side story, before I start the main story, my mom, I ain't gonna say supposedly because there's evidence, but she did something to a supposedly older brother that I was supposed to have, but he's no longer with us. It happened when he was a newborn. So I'll let put two and two together. And my two sisters were adopted by my dad's half brother and his wife. So my sisters, I didn't get to grow up with them, like living with them, but they would come over on like the weekends, or they would come over during the summer, but like we didn't actually grow up together. So that's why in the very first video I mentioned my sisters, but like they're not a part of my like childhood growing up because, like I said, I didn't grow up with them. So on to the main story. Um, my mom, she would work either day shift or night shift, and he would be in charge of watching me and my brother. And I'm pretty sure anybody who was in elementary school, your behavior would go based off a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. So my brother, he was more of a good kid. He would come home with a green light. I was more of a bad kid. I wasn't like bad, bad, but like I still would come home with like a yellow, sometimes a red. And whenever my mom wasn't around, I would receive beatings from Mike, which is her husband. And it's one thing to discipline a child, but it's another thing where it's like you're really like beating them. I mean, it was to the point where like I'm beating to where I'm twitching, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that point. So, I want to say the very first time I really remember the first beating was like I remember I came home from school. He was already home, and he asked, what was our like, lights or whatever. And I just remember being held down, and I was beaten until there was like scars Well, I ain't gonna say scars because they're going out. I'm gonna say like bruises on me. Um, there was a time where he beat me until I kind of just like threw up. Like we were at the table, and I threw up into the bowl, and he seen it happen, and he told me like you need to finish eating your food. So I literally was so scared that I ate my own throw up. I don't know how much I ate of it, but like I threw up and I had to eat it because I was so frightened. Um, One time he beat me so bad, like my nose started bleeding. I don't know if I was just like overheated or whatever, but he beat me till that happened. I'm trying to figure out what else happened during that little trailer park period. So to clarify what I mean by beatings, I mean by he would grab a belt and just relentlessly like just keep welling, just keep going, like just relentlessly. To where he was hitting like my legs, my back, and my mom, instead of her stopping it, she was doing stuff like making me wear clothes to cover the bruises. She would have me spend the night at like aunts, uncles, instead of just leaving the dude. Like she was just, or even like trying, just putting her foot down. Like she would do a bunch of extra stuff to hide what was going on, but not actually stop what was going on. And I do remember the memories of me spending the night at different people's houses, whether it was family from his side or family from her side. I was at somebody's house like at least once a week. I was at somebody's house so she wouldn't keep me home alone with him because he kept beating me all the time that bad. And I knew about the scars because rest in peace to my great grandmother, but she actually told me what happened. I want to say months before she died. She told me how she found out about the beatings with me. Like she found out herself. Not that my mom told her. She found out from when one day she told me to. Because I remember one time I actually spent a night with my great grandmother, and she actually told me like, "Why are you wearing like a hoodie in the middle of the summer? Like this just doesn't sound right. A hoodie, or it was multiple clothes, long sleeve or something." And she was like, "Hey, take that off because I'm pretty sure you're hot." And that's when she had found out about the beating. So that lets me know like you were really hiding it from everybody. But anyway, I'm gonna continue. So it continued until we moved to the blue apartments. We moved from a trailer to an apartment. I want to say like a year or two after. And I want to say the very last time I remember the actual beating. So the very last time I remember receiving a beating from Mike was when um, my mom was actually home and I was in the guest room. And I remember that she tried to stop him, and she came up to him. I remember it was like some little argument. He pushed her out of the way, closed the guest room door with me and him trapped inside the room, locked it, and I just remember that he just kept going and going and going and going. And it was to the point where I remember I peed on myself that night and I was twitching. And around this time period, I didn't remember until now because I had to bring my mind back into that moment when it happened. But around that time when it did happen, I used to pee on myself. I'm gonna say, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. Around that time, I used to pee on myself like almost every night. It was either mostly like every night. Well, I ain't gonna say mostly. I'm gonna say it was either every other night or every night, and it happened for quite a while. And that was around the time when the beatings were happening. So that kind of like matches up. But anyway, I got to the kitchen table and I just remember trying to grab like eat some rice or something from a bowl. And I remember when I grabbed my spoon, we're going to pretend that this is the spoon, but like my hand was just like twitching and I could barely pick anything up. And it was just silent. Like I didn't hear nothing from my mom defending me, or everybody was just quiet, like it was just another day. And think back at it, like that's crazy to me. So I want to say it was either the next day or a few days later. Me and my brother was at daycare, and this white lady comes and pick us up, and I'm like, where's my mom? And at that time, I didn't know what was going on, but obviously I'm old enough now to know what was going on. It was DSS. It was a social worker who came and scooped me and my brother up, and we were put in foster care for 6 months. Originally, me and my brother were together in foster care, but then they had split us up. I don't know when it happened, but I was put in a different home than he was. But we were both taken away from my mother. And I remember seeing her like once a month, and she would just bawl her eyes out crying, just bawl her eyes out. Because you got to remember, this is the second time this has happened to her. First time was my sister's. Now it was us. Um, After the 6 months was over, me and my brother and her, we moved to a different apartment. He was still in that blue apartment that we were in. He was still there. And I want to say life actually got somewhat better living in the apartment. It was just me, my mom, and my brother. It was getting somewhat better. Like there was, no more physical beatings anymore. I was taking medicine. I think I was also going to therapy. Life was getting it was getting a little bit better. And slowly he popped back up into the picture. He would show up. It started by him showing up on the weekends. Then I was seeing him a lot more frequent through the week. And I want to say after maybe once that lease was up, we was right back into that apartment again. So right back into the blue apartment we go. And supposedly the reason why they got back together again is because he went to anger management classes and he apologized to her. Now, I understand there might have been some other stuff that I don't know what was going on between them two, but like, I don't remember actually receiving an apology from Mike. I don't have any vivid memory of an apology. Even if he did, once I tell you the next part of the story, it would make that invalid anyway. So anyway, he apologized or whatever. They end up getting back together, and we're back into that apartment again. Um, and his son and his daughter would spend the night. Sometimes on the weekends. Sometimes on the summertime they would stay longer, but I know throughout the year they would spend the night on the weekends. And his son would sleep in a room with us, with me and my brother, and then of course the daughter would sleep in the guest room. And my brother would be on the top. Me and my brother would sleep on a bunk bed. So my brother would sleep on the top, and I would sleep on the bottom. The and his son would sleep on the floor on a air mattress. And I want to say like either the first or second. I know it was one of the first few times he spent the night that weekend. I was actually touched by him. The first time he did it, at least made an attempt, I freaked out and told my mom. So my mom and Mike both are in the hallway. I'm in the room. I'm explaining to them like, hey, you know, uh, what did I call him? Little Mike. I said Little Mike tried to touch me. And they looked at me like I was crazy. But just hear me out. I was never exposed to any nudity, any of that stuff. Like I was a sheltered kid. Like I wasn't exposed to any of that. Didn't know what it was. So how could I make up something like that? Like I just feel like there should have been some logic there. But anyway, I'm gonna continue with the story. So then, after I told her, Mike defended his son and was like, "No, my son won't do nothing like that." Blah 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 blah. And my mom, to this day, she claimed that she don't remember it happened, but she says that about half these stories that I'm telling you. But I told her, and she was like, "Oh, I mean, okay." She basically believed what Mike said, and their solution was, "Okay, well, we're gonna leave your door open. It's no longer gonna be closed," and then they would keep their room door closed, but sometimes leave it open. But their room was down the hallway, so it didn't matter. Uh, I can see if it was like the guest room, which is across from their room, completely different story. But anyway, it didn't help because I was still touched. Every time he came over on the weekends, I was still touched. So that didn't matter. I wasn't the R word, but I was still touched. We'll just say that. Um, and honestly, he got away with it. Like he kept doing it until eventually he kind of like just stopped spending the night as much anymore. But like during those times where he was frequently spending night and stuff, and I was like still relatively young, like yeah, that kept happening over and over and over and over again. Um, Another thing was we'll slip over to what was going on with my mom. So even from like around that time when I was young until till it was time for me to move and stuff, we were being fed like on a plate like this. We were being fed on a plate like this, but the portions that we were given could be put on a plate like this. Hopefully, you can see the size difference here. Um, but he would get a plate like this and it would be filled, sometimes even bigger. And he was always fed first before we were fed. Uh, so I remember me and my brother, we would save money, like change, dollar bills. We would, anything we could find, we would put them on a frisbee, in a frisbee and put it in a drawer and like kind of hide it to, save money. And one day, I guess my mom saw me and my brother counted the money and she was like, "Hey, are you guys hungry?" This is the reason why I mentioned the food thing. Of course we're hungry. We weren't really fed like we're supposed to. She's like, "Okay, do you guys want something?" And we're like, "Sure." So the manipulation part will come in with we will give her all of the money that we had saved. She'll go to Burger King, get like some $5 shit, and she'll keep the rest of the money. Won't even give us the change. Like just keep all of it. Another scenario is we actually had a piggy bank, which she got, and she said we can put all of our money in there. I think we put a year's worth of money into that piggy bank. We went to Harris Teeter, and I'm pretty sure you guys know about the little coin machine. Dumped all the coins in there. They print out a ticket. You go to the cashier. The cashier reads the ticket, and then you basically trade the ticket for, money. And it was like a little over $20. And her words, not ours, she was like, "Oh, when I get paid, I'm gonna put money back into the machine. I just really need it right now." And as a month went by, me and my brother remembered. We reminded her, and she's like, "What money?" Like she thought we were just something we would just forget about. Then we almost got a desktop we almost got a desktop installed into our room from my dad. Okay, so I'm jumping the gun thing with the desktop thing, so hear me out. Some weekends we would spend the night, not spend the night, we would spend a few hours with my dad, and my dad would have a bunch of computers because he's a computer mechanic. Doesn't work for anybody. He basically works for himself. And while we would spend the night, not spend the night, I don't know why I keep saying that. While we would spend a few hours at his house, I guess my mom and Mike would have their alone time, whether it's going on a date or whatever. But my dad knew that me and my brother, we loved playing games on the computer, especially when I don't know if y'all remember or not, but this was back then when Cartoon Network GameStop.com was like really good with the games, way better than what the mess you see now. Like the games were so much better back then. But anyway, so what my dad did was he actually came into the apartment because this is when we was like way out of the whole daycare thing now. I think we had to be like 10 or 11, something like that. He came into the house, only walked into our room and installed the desktop so we can now have a computer to play at home. Well, I remember I was so excited as a kid and I didn't realize like how bad it was to me even saying that it happened. But my mom had found out, and then Mike had found out, and his insecure ass found out, fussed my mom out, and was like, "What is he doing in here? Blah 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 blah." Well, not what is he doing here because he had already left, but what I'm saying is he got mad that he entered the house and did that. I don't remember word for word, but I can hear them arguing in the room. All of a sudden, he waits until me and my brother goes to sleep. He comes into the room, grabs the desktop that my dad just installed that same day, smashed it in the front yard, and I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm hearing it being smashed because I'm looking over at the dresser that it was on and it's no longer there. And then when we got up the next morning for school, I can see the keyboard keys just laying on the little porch on the sidewalk in front of the house. And the only thing she did was call the school the very next day to make sure, I guess, I was okay. Like I wasn't like frustrated to the point I was gonna hurt someone or something like that. I didn't understand what was the point in that. Your energy should have been directed towards him, but the story just gets crazier as it progresses. So one day me and my brother came home from school and we unlocked the door, and right in the living room, because as soon as you open the door, the living room's right there. The living room TV was missing. Then we went to our room and all the game cases were on the floor with the cases open, but the CDs were missing. And we just felt like something was just weirdly off. So what we did was we just ran out of the house, and I don't know if I called the cops, called my mom, I can't remember, but once my mom and the cops came, that's when we was able to like enter back into the house. And basically, long story short, the stuff that was stolen was a living room TV and my mom's room TV, and then most of our stuff was stolen. The games were taken out, our PlayStation was stolen, all of the DSs I had, those were stolen, but they kept the TV in there. But my laptop, all that stuff was stolen. And the cops, obviously the fingerprint thing, but long story short, they never found out who did it. So things actually got worse in the house after that happened, because this is when Mike became, like, I guess you could say, mentally, I can't really say the A word, but you get what I'm trying to say. So after that, this is when he changed the locks, changed the deadbolt, changed the regular lock, and the only people who had the keys was my mom and him. He also changed it to where you can't leave the house unless you have the keys. So you're either locked outside the house for hours until somebody came home, or you were locked inside the house until somebody came home. So the other mental or emotional, we're just gonna say a word, that was going on was he wanted us to vacuum 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And he wanted the floor to be, when I say spotless, like spotless, no crumbs, no nothing. If he did see like one small little crumb, he would just flip out. Same thing with the kitchen floors. My mom wouldn't say anything because obviously she's seen that it was clean, but he'll come by, see it, try to find something, and then call us to the kitchen to clean it up. Then the same thing would be for the microwave, but with the microwave, if, like I said, if he saw any small little crumb, he'll take it, and put it in the laundry room and lock it, I guess, like whenever it was just me and my brother at home. And then whenever he would come home or my mom would come home, they would take it out and use it. And he would prevent us from using it for like a few weeks and then put it back in the kitchen and say, hey, I hope you guys learned your lesson on keeping the microwave clean, and we would be able to use it. Note to you now, we weren't taught how to cook or anything like that. So if we ever wanted a snack or anything, we had to use the microwave because we were never taught to use the stove. And I don't even think we were allowed to use the stove. Also, I want to say maybe until we were like maybe 15, 16, we weren't really allowed to use the shower. We were actually cleaning ourselves through the sink. Really, we just heat the wash rag up, rinse it up with some soap, and we were washing ourselves through the sink. We wasn't actually able to start using the shower until like we got like a lot older. And eventually, we were told like we could, use the shower and stuff. I mentioned I mentioned the food thing, but I forgot to mention more about the food thing. So we would actually eat leftovers for days while they would eat like Valdinos or going out to eat. Like they'll eat something completely new where we're still eating leftovers from 3 to 4 days ago. Like we're just eating leftovers all the way until it's completely gone. So we were like surviving off that for like 3 to 4 days, and they're eating something new. And they would do the same thing whenever he would grill. We would eat the grilled hot dogs, eat on that for like a week, and they're already eating something new while we're still eating leftovers. Another thing is that, remember I told you around the beginning of the story, is that my sisters, they would come over and spend the night some weekends. Sometimes it would just be them, sometimes it would be my sisters, Mike's kids, and us all spend the night in the house. So it would be me, my brother, his son and daughter, and then my two sisters. It'll be all of us in one house on like a weekend or during the summer. Well, whenever it would be either whether it's just them two or them two and his daughter, my mom would literally say, hey, I want you guys to lock the door because M's drinking tonight. And she basically insinuated on she didn't want him to go in a room and do anything or try anything because their room door is locked. If you got to tell your kids that, why are you still with this man? But it gets worse from there. She actually told my sisters that they need to wear looser clothes because he would look at them whenever they would come in. Why are you looking at my sisters in that way anyway? Why do you need to tell my sisters that they need to change their dress code so your man is not looking at them? Once again, what? Where's the logic in that? Like I'm not understanding. So I believe me and my brother was like 15, 16. I can't remember. One Christmas, this was when my older sister came down and actually stayed with us like permanently for a little bit. I want to say for like a good nearly a year, my older sister. But that's a whole different story about how that happened, but just follow along. I remember one Christmas, my dad gave me and my brother, I think he gave us like $150 a piece for Christmas, I think. And I know it was somewhere over $100. And my mom was behind on, I want to say, the internet. She wanted us to give her $50 a piece, me and my brother. And we both said no. Like, we're kids. Like, you should never, me personally, you should never have to ask your child for money. Like, I don't care how far you behind on bills. You should never. Now, when they're fully an adult and they're able to get a job and, get to that point of where they should start being able to take care of themselves, yeah, absolutely. But we were still in high school. We were still growing. Like, no, we wasn't giving it to her. And still to this day, I don't feel bad about not giving her money that around that time on Christmas. And she would try to do stuff to make us feel bad. Oh, your sister, she gave me some money and blah 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 blah. And looking back at the situation, there's more reasons why she didn't need money from us. She was getting child support from um my dad. Back when he used to work at a car wash, my dad was giving her like, I want to say 200 to 250 almost every weekend. Then she was also had a job, and then you also have a whole nother man in the house that's supposed to be helping you. So yeah, I wasn't doing that. Um, so before I continue to this next part of the story, I just want to say that me and my brother were good kids. Like, we wasn't doing any drugs, we wasn't any gang affiliations, we wasn't doing any of that. And I remember I would ask my mom, "Can I go to the library?" And she kept going, "Oh, I need to be home just in case something happens." Blah 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 blah. We were like, a 3 to 4 minute drive from the police station, and then the library was only maybe a 7 to 10 minute drive from us. So, um, one day I got tired of asking. Like, I got tired of getting the same answer and over again. So eventually, I would just sneak out and meet up with my friends at the library. That's all we did. We hang out at the library, and then sometimes we would go for a walk. And I just remember, I feel a burp coming, but it's not coming. Anyway, so eventually I snuck out, and eventually I came home, and my mom found out, and she didn't flip out like I thought she was. She was just like, "Hey, I want you to be back home by 9." And she gave me one of the little like Obama phones with the minutes on it. And she was actually okay with it. But when Mike found out that we were sneaking through the window because we didn't have the key, once he found out, he actually started putting bars on the window and gluing them to the wall. So if a fire broke out, me and my brother would have been dead. Thank God it didn't happen. That was a blessing. But like, it was to the point where like we were actually jailed in the house. We didn't have a key to get out because you actually had to have a key to leave the house. So, and then like the windows, like I said, those now have bars on them, so you can't even get behind the bars to lift up the window. So like, you were basically, like I said, jailed in your own house. So I'm gonna speed right along to when it was time for us to. Well, I'm gonna speed right along to whenever I was trying to make my escape from the house. So I remember I was talking to my second ex, I guess like through Grinder at the time, and we was meeting each other at the park. I want to say after like the third or fourth time, I went over to his house, and he still lived with like his mom and his siblings. And I remember I stayed the night over there like maybe once or twice, and eventually I moved over there. And I was over there for about, I want to say 7 months. I think we broke up. No, it was a little bit longer than 7 months. I want to say it was maybe like 8 or 9, but we were together on and off for 7 months. We broke it off. We were trying to live together, but financially at the time, he was spending money instead of saving. But I already had money saved for me to put down like a deposit and stuff like that. So I ended up leaving my ex's place, and then I went back home. So this was between like the 18, 19 range. I moved back home for like 2 weeks, and then I told my brother we are going to move out. So I moved back to the house so I could get my brother out of that house. So after the 2 weeks was up, I'll admit my mom helped us look for an apartment, which was only like 5 minutes away, which was good, but mostly a bad idea. And moved to the apartments that was 5 minutes away from the house. And we I lived with my brother for about, I want to say 4 or 5 years. So I lived there from 2017 all the way till 2021. But I'm going to backtrack. So in 2018, I was working at T Rock, and this basically was a phone seller job, and my mom was my ride to work. She was driving me from Spring Lake to Sanford. That's literally only a 20-minute drive. And she wasn't charging me gas, but she also wasn't picking me up on time. She was picking me up like 30 minutes after my shift, 2 hours after my shift. No joke. She was picking me up 2 hours after my shift. But anyway, she wasn't charging me gas or anything, and she had asked me, "Hey, I was wondering, could I get this watch that I seen on Amazon?" And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Sure." She was getting it from this Amazon credit card that I had at the time, and she knew, I knew. I mean, I knew about credit through her, but long story short, she got the watch through the Amazon credit card and she paid on it for like 2 to 3 months and then she stopped paying on it. Amazon is contacting me through email, through text message, letting me know like, hey, you still need to pay on this watch. And my credit ended up dropping a good 60 points. I'm on the phone with my mom telling her like, hey, this dropped because of you. I never got an apology. All I got was, oh, it'll go back up. And um in 2020, my mom had always filed my taxes all the way until I moved up here, which is Missouri. She had filed my taxes all the way up until, like I said, I moved up here. And I want to say for the first 3 to 4 years after me and my brother moved out, she was still following me and my brother as a dependent. And I didn't find that out until everybody was getting their stimulus checks just in 2020, and me and my brother weren't getting them. And me and my dad did some investigation, and the IRS ended up telling um, me that I was filed as a dependent. And usually, when you're filed as a dependent, it's because you still live under your parent or guardian or whatever. But once you move out and live on your own or whatever, you shouldn't be filed as a dependent anymore. So I ended up confronting my mom about it. Once again, I never got an apology. It was just, oh, I did it because of this, da 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 da. I didn't see it was an issue, blah blah blah. You never asked me. She never apologized. She only apologized because I told her like, you're not gonna say you're sorry. Then I was reaching a crossroads whether I really could have just put her in jail or accept what happened and move on. So of course I moved on, and the next following year she did the right thing, and me and my brother got our stimulus check on top of the taxes we were already getting. So we were getting some good money that year. I want to say that was no, that wasn't the last thing. No, I'm gonna say that was like the last major thing whenever I was in North Carolina. That was the last major thing. There were small little stuff like um, Mike would drive his truck um, coming from work or going to the store or whatever. And I didn't have a car or a license at the time. At least when I was living in North Carolina, I did not have a license. I did not have a car. I basically walked everywhere. If I needed to leave the city, it's because I knew somebody who had a car. But anyway, I would be walking with somebody and he's playing messenger to my mom going, oh, I seen Kevon walking with this dude. I think he was wearing tight pants or something, blah, 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 blah. Then she's on the phone talking to me saying, oh, Mike just told me he saw you with such and such. And I didn't flip out on her, but I put, my foot down and was like, I don't live with you guys anymore. I have my own place. I pay for my own rent. Why are you trying to tell me who I can and can't hang with? And why are you worried about who I bring over? And her only response was, yeah, you make a good point. I'm just going to be quiet when he says something. That's your problem. You're not even checking him. So he feel like he can just do whatever. And I don't understand that. So should I even go over what happened like after? Fuck it, I'll go over it. So I guess you can say like bonus story. So after I moved up here, obviously I moved up here and now I'm staying with someone, and I can't really go into full detail about between me and him. Only close people know, but like I can't go with a full story publicly yet until time passes because of what's going on behind the scenes with his situation. So just run with that. But anyway, my mom never like called him by name. Like she always kept saying, "Oh, how's it going with your friend?" or "What's your friend doing? Your friend, your friend, your friend, your friend." And like we've been together for damn near 3 years, and you still going your friend. Like I just feel like it's disrespect. Whether you agree with my lifestyle or not, like you could at least call the man by his name. Like I'm living up here fine. He's took care of me whenever I didn't have any money, I didn't have a car, I didn't have a license. Like he's got all of that. He's helped me get all of that. He's helped me become a better person than I ever was than when I was in North Carolina. And all you can say is you're a friend. Um, Christmas last year, I didn't even ask her. She volunteered herself. "Oh, is your dad still giving you money for Christmas?" Long story short, my dad gives me and my brother $50 every time during Christmas. And I guess she was like trying to like be a part of that and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you guys some money too when I get my money. When I get my paycheck this week or something like that." Her paycheck comes around, never got the money, never mentioned it. Months later, never mentioned it, and it was just like, what was the point of you? What was the point of you bringing it up? And there's little small stuff here and there that's happened after. There was even little small stuff that happened throughout my childhood that she's done that I haven't mentioned in the story. But I just mentioned some of the big, major ones that was the issue. So there was something else that happened with my mom and my second oldest sister when they went over to my grandmother's house, and my sister was being like underhandedly disrespected, and my mom was in the room, and my sister approached her days later about it, about saying like, "Hey, your sister was, saying certain things," and my mom just completely changed the topic. And for the longest, like I was thinking of the next time I go down there, I would have a one-on-one conversation with her about all of this stuff that happened. But like, if you can't handle that, you can't handle this. But I even took it a step further. We actually talked through text message. I even sent her voice messages, and now she's saying, "Oh, I apologize for everything that happened when we were younger, and I wish I could go back in time," and blah 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 blah. And I would just tell her like, "Hey, the apology is nice, but it's invalid because you're not changing your actions now." And one of her things was she had asked me, what can she do, uh, I guess, to mean that she's sorry or whatever. When someone asks you what can they do, and they're like twice your age, and that should already be automatically known, their sorry is invalid. But I'm gonna go ahead and take it another step uh, further. The reason why the apologies are invalid to me, because even after everything I just told you guys throughout this entire story, she is still married to this man to this day. They still in that same house to this day. Whenever I go over and visit, like whether I was in North Carolina or not, she would try to include Mike into the equation. "Oh, Mike, guess who's here?" And then he'll come out to the room and try to give me a handshake or whatever, blah 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 blah, knowing everything this man has did to me when I was younger. Other little stuff like, so I guess like shortly after, like a year or two after I had moved out, and my sister would come down and visit to see me and my brother at the new apartment, and she would come over and visit. She would bring Mike, and he would just have predatory vibes, like trying to it's kind of hard to explain. You would have to be there, but like this is for the women. If you you can tell when a man is looking at you differently than how he's normally supposed to be looking at you, or he's giving you a hug longer than normal. Just little side stuff. But my mom would just completely act oblivious to it. Like I said, there's more little things that has happened. Like I said before, there's other little things that has happened. that I haven't mentioned, but that's just some more little things I just decided to throw in there. But I want to say this, like, in any way, shape, or form, I'm not saying she needed to be the absolutely perfect mom, but I'm saying there's only so many fuck ups that I can keep dealing with over and over again to where I'm just like, enough is enough. I'm nowhere, anywhere, shape, or form saying I'm perfect. I know that I have some things I need to work on, but like, after a certain while, like, especially when you're getting to that age, 40, 50, it's time. It's time to change. It's time to be a better person. I'm not even gonna say it's time. I'm gonna say it's been past that, but like, at that point, it's, you know, you can't change in the past, but like, I mean, you can't change about what happens in the past, but you can change what's happening now to shape for you to be a better person in the future. And clearly, just the way the text messages were, the way things are still that's happening there right now, it's not going to happen. So, like I said, I love her, but it's from a distance. But I'm glad you guys took the time to listen to what happened. And like I said, I'm fine. I just wanted to put this out there about what happened. And I'm getting pretty tired. I'm ready to lay down. And I'll see you guys in the next one.